And hello, welcome back to this week. And well, we have another show of Culture Shock. And here we are, the three hosts for today. Alan.
I am Daniela.
And Willie.
Okay, and this week we have something very special prepared for you, which is flags of the world. And that's one of the topics. Of course, commemorating our National Flags Day, right? But we decided to talk about a lot of flags around the world. So, how can we start?
Well, first, I think we need to talk about how flags are used or were used. You know, in ancient times, they were used as warfare, and to some extent, they have remained as an insignia of leadership. So, I mean, that's really interesting because, you know, even though they were, you know, kind of primitive, you can say, they didn't have like a symbol or something. It was actually used to identify themselves. And the first one to use that was the leader from the Shu dynasty in China, he carried a white flag around him.
Which now a white flag has a completely different meaning, right?
Yeah.
But it's interesting to see how it was, the data we have says that it was invented by the Chinese and it was for warfare, which doesn't sound strange, right? It just makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep, that's right.
Also, Rome was very popular for using these flags. The different battalions would use different flags for giving orders, commands, and organizing and recognizing themselves. And it was until between the 18th and 19th century, in which people really wanted a deeper meaning of community, right? A sense of belonging to a country, and this is when the flags became more popular. And what about nowadays, Willie?
And now, just as you said, it's completely different. A long time ago, it was really different. As you said, just to identify themselves in their battlefield. The country is the opposite, and now it's completely different. Now it's a way to identify a country. A country can spend too many hours to imagine, to see how the flag is gonna be, how it's gonna see, and how the people can identify with the flag. It can have too many colors, images, crosses, and all these things is because it's a way of portraying and to symbolize something, to symbolize the whole country.
Yeah, but also in culture, like for example, here in Mexico, soccer teams, they wear like flags. They also, like for example, the flag from America, the team, and also, you know, in the Super Bowl, like I mean, that's like kind of how where you belong. I have to say.
Yes. Now it's not war, right? And now it's a competition in sports.
Right. Yeah.
Promotes the use of flags, and people associate themselves with a specific team. And a very good way of doing it is by using one of these flags, right? And showing it off, and it's very interesting how it has happened.
Yeah.
And nowadays we have 250 national flags worldwide. And of course, just like our Mexican flag, most of them have gone through a process of transformation, redesigning. As Willie said, it's not just like I'm gonna add this color and it looks pretty, but there's always a deeper meaning. There's history. There's always a reason behind why we add these colors, why we add that design, why we have this symbol, or how many stars, how many stripes, how many different colors, etc. Right? So, what are the most used colors in flags?
So the 70% of the countries have either red or blue or white, and from the three, red is the most repeated, present in 30.3% of the banners. So I think that it has a meaning. You know, of course, every color in any flag has a meaning, but yeah, I feel that that the red color represents something strong, which is something that we are going to see later.
Yeah, that's correct. And for example, the third and fourth most used colors are green with 15% and yellow 8%. And now, well, it's about but how many, more than half of the nations, use between three, that's 39%, and four colors, 23%. And yeah, as Danny said, it's about how the people identify with the whole country. It's the people that made the flags in the countries, in the places, and also in the teams. It's a way to identify themselves with to feel part of something.
Yes, and as we were saying, these colors are not just thrown there randomly, but they have a meaning, right? Usually related with history, usually related with culture, deep values. And well, we'll start with black, okay? It usually represents determination, ethnic heritage, and the defeat of enemies. So, as we can see, many African countries may have this color not because of their skin color, but rather for the fight they have gone through and all this ethnic heritage that is behind.
Yeah, and also, on the contrary, white is seen as a symbol of peace, purity, and harmony, but it also represents surrender or defeat. So we are going to talk a little bit more about it later, but I think we all know that a white flag represents, defeat or surrender to an enemy.
That's
Yes.
correct. And also, for example, in the case of Mexico, white it's to show the fate of Mexicans, because well, as we know, most of the population in Mexico it's Catholic.
Mhm.
I don't have the percentage, but well, most of the population, and it shows the fate, Mexican fate for Catholicism. So
Yes.
that's what white represents nowadays for Mexican flag. So that's interesting. Also, we have red that stands for power, revolution, vibrancy, and war. Other meanings include courage and domination, while it can also be viewed as an alert of danger.
Okay, and we also have blue, which is very popular, especially in flags like the French flag, right? Which is this determination, liberation, la liberté, and also good fortune. So that's one of the other colors.
Yeah, and also we have green, which can be seen on the Mexican flag, and it is symbol of agricultural influence and also prosperity and fertility. So it can also be seen as youthfulness and hope.
Which I think in the Mexican flag is related a lot to the farming population, right?
Yeah,
That
I
they have-
think that Mexico owns a lot because of agriculture.
Yes, and also I guess hope from the times it was conceived as
Yeah,
such. Mhm.
sure.
That's correct. And also we have yellow. Well, in less percentage, we can see it in some flags. The yellow that could represent it's a symbol of wealth and energy, and in the sun, it can also be used to represent happiness, like the sun.
Okay. Yeah, in which flags had yellow? Can you think of any?
Well, for example, Argentina.
Oh, Argentina.
the
Yeah,
sun.
the
Yeah,
sun, that's true.
That's I think I don't know, but it could represent happiness.
And it even has a face, right? The
Yeah.
sun has
Yeah,
a
the
face.
sun has a face.
So
and a
that's so
happy
interesting.
face.
Yes, it's a happy smiley face.
Yeah.
And the last color?
The last color is orange, and it is viewed as representation of courage and sacrifice.
Can you think of any flag with,
With
orange?
With orange.
The Netherlands. Well, the Netherlands
Ireland, I think.
team is always wears
Netherlands.
orange, right? But I don't know the flag doesn't have it.
I believe Ireland
Um,
has. I believe it's orange, white, and green.
That's true.
Also,
That's true.
some
yes.
African countries,
Mhm.
for example, Costa de Marfil,
It has
it
orange.
has orange.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Good. So we're gonna go more into flags with deep meaning because we have a selection of the best flags. But before we go with that, remember that this show was inspired by National Flags Day, and it's on February 24th, which just passed 2 days ago,
Yeah.
right? And it was first declared in 1940. So that's we've been celebrating this for more than 50 years now.
Right.
And throughout our history, there have been 10 different flags, and of course, with different changes. And well, those are the ones that are recognized because from slight variations to one to other, there have been actually more than 20, but officially recognized, there's only 10.
Yeah, and also I think that the one that your history teacher tells you is that there was one with La Virgen de Guadalupe.
Yes.
So that's really interesting. I
The
think.
first, yeah, that's the
Yeah, that's
first probably
correct.
symbol that was used as something Mexican, right?
Yeah, I mean it adds. It. I mean it sinks deep, because we were, conquered by Spanish people,
Mm-hmm.
and then La Virgen kind of has this meaning of hope. Like her message is to be brave. I kind of want to say that.
And if we think about it, like her clothes are green,
Yeah.
right?
Her skin
Yeah.
color, of
Yeah, her
course.
skin's color, and also she has this part of her clothing which is kind of like pink, red, reddish kind of thing. So we can see two of the colors there, and of course the banner was probably white at the beginning.
That's
And
correct.
yeah, so
And one of the most important things, people felt really proud for that flag, right? For that representation. So they felt like they felt shown in that way, in that aspect. So that's really important.
Yeah.
yes, and as we can see, we also have in the national flag we have this eagle, right? It's eating a snake on a cactus. Yes, and this comes from an ancient story, right? Of this civilization who was meant to rule Mexico, right?
Indigenous story, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
and they walked for miles and miles from the north of Mexico until they arrived to this lake, and in which they say like, can we stay here? And the actual the back then group that was inhabiting there said like, oh yeah, you can take this lake. It's just a piece of land we have. And when they were there, they saw what the legend had told them, right? They said that they would settle on this place in which they saw an eagle eating a snake on a cactus. So it was super specific. And according to legend, that's what it happened, right? That they saw this scene and they said, wow, the prophecy came true and we're going to settle here. And then they became
Yeah.
one of the greatest civilizations, right?
That's right.
Yeah, but it can also represent, like the rise and fall of the Aztec Empire against, Hernan Cortés. So that's a big part. I believe that Spain has a lot of influence in our flag.
A lot of people.
Yeah, a
Yeah,
lot.
definitely. And of course, the way in which we see the eagle now eating the snake has changed throughout time. There have been different versions, different poses, right? Like they're doing a photo shoot to the eagle, and it rotates. Sometimes the position changes, and right now it has been the model that we have now, the figure that we have in the Mexican flag has been around for quite a while now.
Yeah, since the 1940s.
The 40s. So this is probably not a day that we celebrate a lot in Mexico, but we do get a free day.
Yeah.
So
That's correct.
that's something that's fun.
And well, also it's interesting to see that for the meaning of the flag, it's one of the most beautiful flag on the world. The
Yes.
meaning, the colors. So
Which was the year in which we won the contest? 2010, I think.
2008.
Eight.
Uh-huh,
So
2008.
in 2008, that's when the Mexican flag was recognized as the most beautiful flag in the world.
Yeah, but not also we are celebrating like the flag. We are also celebrating, our shield and our national anthem, which it was declared by Lázaro Cárdenas like as an official day. We call it Dia de la Bandera, but it also kind of has a background to the shield and to the national anthem.
Which, although is very war-ish, right? It's just, I think it's one beautiful anthem. According to something I read many years ago, it was classified as the second most beautiful anthem, just after the Marseillaise, but the French national anthem, and that was something that I said like, wow, that's cool, right? We have, although both are very representative of warfare, right? They still considered one of the most beautiful anthems. And yep. Also, we know that in Mexico, every state has their own anthems.
Yeah.
And we were when we were looking at the at this information, we were planning this show. We also found something very interesting, which was that every state has their own flag. I knew about our like crests or shields or symbols, but not a specific flag, right?
Yeah.
And it was interesting to see how every state has their own story behind their own shields and representations. For example, in Chiapas, where I'm from, we can see the two lions, right? in the Cañón del Sumidero, and it's very interesting, and it's this representation of the Spaniards represent the lion, and the canyon, of course, represents Mexico and how it became to be, and it's still used today, just like Puebla, right? What is the? Can you?
Well,
Tell me
from
what
what
the logo-
I've read here in Puebla, it represents the battle against the French
Mhm.
in 1860. So,
Okay, but what's the like the figures that you can see there?
oh my God, I don't remember.
I don't remember, but for example, the anthem, I remember that every Monday in secondary school, it was every Monday you have to go to out of the classroom.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have to stand with your classmates, with your group, and you have to sign the anthem every Monday. So
Mhm.
if you tell me nowadays, I remember perfectly.
The
there are
national
some
and the
words.
state anthem.
And the state-
And the
Both.
state anthem.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
here, yeah.
You're from Puebla as well, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we would do the same there. We would this national and the
That's
state
correct.
anthem.
And doing that for 3-4 years, it's like, of course, that I remember it perfectly. So-
Only 3 years. I did it for like I don't know, let's say 12. Yes.
Across
Elementary
my
school?
life, yeah.
Since elementary school, right? Well,
Yeah.
I think elementary school and
And
secondary,
secondary,
school.
right? So
in high
it's-
school, it was not that.
No,
Mm-mm.
No.
we were freer in high school. Okay, so I think we're gonna go to a break, and we're gonna be back in a few minutes. Be ready because the Vox Populi is going to be shown, and it's very interesting to see what the UPAP students said about flags. So we'll be back.
¿Te gustaría crear o mejorar dispositivos para el servicio de seres vivos, tales como prótesis, órtesis e instrumental biomédico? ¿Qué estás esperando? La Escuela de Ingeniería Biónica de la UPAEP te invita a conocer cómo un ingeniero biónico domina y aplica las habilidades de elementos mecánicos, electrónicos y biológicos en las personas. Conoce nuestro plan de estudios conformado por 9 cuatrimestres con líneas terminales en diseño y manufactura de prótesis, emprendedores e instrumentación biomédica, con un campo de trabajo que va desde el sector salud, automotriz y aeroespacial. Para más información, comunícate al teléfono 229-9400, extensión 7146, o consulta la página www.upaep.mx. Ingeniería biónica, calidad de vida en tus manos. Hazlo tuyo. Hazlo UPAEP.
Soy de Tabasco, tengo 21 años y estudio la licenciatura en Comercio y Estrategia Internacional en UPAEP. Practiqué baile contemporáneo y eso me formó como una persona muy apasionada y detallista. Amo la música y por eso estuve aprendiendo batería en Bellas Artes UPAEP. Mi gran inspiración es mi mamá. Es una emprendedora social y me enseñó que lo más importante es poner el corazón en lo que hago. En UPAEP lo estoy logrando porque me forman con los mismos valores que ella me inculcó. Mejorar mi entorno es uno de mis sueños y por eso estoy colaborando en 2 proyectos que promueven la vida sustentable. Estoy determinada que el impacto que deje en el mundo sea el inicio de la transformación que nuestro futuro necesita. Mi historia comienza aquí. Soy Karen y soy UPAEP.
Piedad Estudiambre presenta un espacio cultural.
Pide al tiempo que vuelva. Es una película ubicada en 1980. Esta película nos demuestra que el tiempo es subjetivo mientras exista algo que nos acerque a la persona que queremos y que una moneda tiene el poder de hacernos volver al pasado.
Okay, and we're back with more fun with flags, right? And well, before we start, we have this very interesting section that is prepared for showing you the different flags around the world, and we have a section of similar flags, we have a section of very interesting flags, and we have also flags with a lot of history behind. So, but before we go to that, why don't we go to the Vox Populi and let's see what our students in UPAEP know about this day.
Hola, bienvenidos a Culture Shock. Hoy vamos a hablar sobre el Día de la Bandera y vamos a ver qué tienen los alumnos de UPAEP para decir. Vamos a verlo.
Hola, ¿saben cuándo es el Día de la Bandera?
24 de febrero.
¿Saben qué significa cada color de la bandera de México?
El rojo supongo que es la sangre, ¿no? Algo así. El blanco. Ajá. Y no sé, el verde.
No me acuerdo del verde.
¿Alguna idea que tengan?
Esperanza.
No sé.
¿Saben por qué celebramos el Día de la Bandera?
Para conmemorar de que somos mexicanos.
Ajá.
Ok, gracias. Hola, ¿sabes cuándo se celebra el Día de la Bandera?
El Día de la Bandera es el... No.
¿Sabes cuántas banderas han existido en la historia hasta llegar a la actual?
Unas 10, no sé, la verdad.
¿Sabes qué significa cada color de la bandera de México?
El rojo creo que era por los soldados caídos. El blanco creo que era la esperanza. Y el verde... No me acuerdo el orden.
¿Modificarías algo de la bandera de México?
No, creo que está bien, me gusta. Creo que es bonita.
Ok, gracias.
¿Cuándo se celebra el Día de la Bandera?
¿El 24 de febrero?
Si pudieras cambiar los colores de la bandera de México, ¿cuáles elegirías y por qué?
¿Y si digo que no? ¿Puedo decir por qué? Pues no, me gustan porque nos representa pues el verde la esperanza, el rojo la sangre y pues el águila que está en medio de la bandera. Pues no cambiaría ninguno.
¿Sabes de qué país es la siguiente bandera?
¿México? ¿Italia? China, no sé.
Gracias.
Hola, ¿sabe cuándo se celebra el Día de la Bandera?
4 de febrero.
¿Por qué se celebra el Día de la Bandera?
Porque es en honores a un símbolo patrio.
¿Nos podría decir cuáles son esas banderas?
Esa Alemania. Francia. Japón. México.
Ok, gracias.
Okay, and we're back. So, very interesting question. Some people didn't even know when the day of the national flag was. And, well, some other people say they want to change the colors, they like it. And yeah, it's actually a very pretty flag. So, if you had the chance to change something in the Mexican flag, what would you change?
I wouldn't change anything, actually.
Yeah.
Seriously?
Seriously.
Yeah, I'm really proud of my flag.
Okay.
Yeah, because, well, as we said, it's the meaning, right? The meaning that the people was giving to the flag. The colors, the images, the eagle, the cactus, everything, the snake, has some deep meaning. So I think that, of course, I wouldn't change anything of the flag.
Yeah. A friend of mine actually said, we can combine La Virgen de Guadalupe and the eagle eating the snake and a cactus.
That's correct.
That would be pretty cool.
That would look like a
imagine
comic
that.
book, right? That would look like a comic book.
A little bit creepy.
Yeah. Well, I think I wouldn't change anything. What I would suggest, probably because now we have so much talent in Mexico, probably there could be a new design to the eagle eating the snake and on the cactus, right? There could probably be a redesign of that, just like it has been throughout all this time, right?
Sure.
Like every now and then there have been modifications to that. But the colors, they could stay the same. I wouldn't have a problem.
Yeah.
And okay, so let's go to this interesting section. And we'll start with New Zealand and Australia. Our friends from Uradio will make us this super cool thing where you can see, well, you listen to us, but you will seeing the flags. And the first ones that we have are New Zealand and Australia. As you can see, they are very similar. You hadn't probably even noticed their differences before this. Well, they are, of course, both based on the British blue ensign. They have this part, the blue field with a Union Jack in the canton, or top inner corner, in whichever case. They have this stylized version of the Southern Cross constellation. That's why they have these stars. And, well, the differences. The design of the constellation: 5 white, 7 pointed stars for Australia, 4 red and white, 5 pointed stars for New Zealand. So that's one of the biggest differences. Of course, also we have the addition of a 6th larger Commonwealth star on the Australian flag, which the New Zealand flag doesn't have, and shade differences in these blues and red. So if we just normally see them, it would be very hard to see the differences, but once that you have now the chance to compare them side by side, and you can look at the differences. Then we also have what are the others?
We also have Venezuela, Ecuador, and Colombia. A flag that is of an equal yellow, blue, and red horizontal stripes that was adopted by Gran Colombia in 1822. And although the country dissolved in 1830, the succeeding states of Colombia, Ecuador, and Venezuela incorporated that flag's tricolor design into their respective flags. So it was kind of like a copy.
Yeah, all of them have the same colors,
sure.
right?
And from Colombia and Ecuador, they have like a larger yellow stripe, while in Venezuela, it has stripes of equal size. And also the Venezuelan flag is distinguished by an arc of stars in its center and by the national coat of arms in the upper hoist corner. And the Ecuadorian flag also depicts the country's coat of arms, though in its center.
So it's very interesting to see this, how they don't even change in the order. They just change on the length, right? That's something interesting to consider. It was just a complete copy. Who does that, right?
Yeah.
I think Italy does that,
And in
right?
fact, right, and also I think that unconsciously when we think about these countries, it's like, and then when you investigate, you see, wow, it's like kind of the same, the flags, right?
Yeah.
Venezuela, Ecuador, and Colombia. If you think about it, it's like, yeah, unconsciously you see like the same.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be able to identify the flags, or if they told me like you have to draw the flags, I wouldn't be able to do that,
that's
because
correct.
I know the order of the colors, but I don't know what makes them different among each other, right?
Maybe the one we can recognize is Venezuela.
Probably because now
Probably.
it's like super
Yeah.
trendy, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's talking about Venezuela.
Many issues, so yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to the next one, Willie.
Yeah, of course. Well, now we have the one of Norway and Ireland. The flag for each of these countries. Iceland. Iceland. Right, Norway and Iceland. The flag for each of these countries boast an identical design, but with the colors reversed. Both have their origins in the Danish flag, with its red field and white Scandinavian cross. The Norwegian flag has a red field with a white border blue cross, while Iceland has a blue field with a white border red cross.
So if we can analyze this, there's a strong relationship here, right? Because they are both based on the Danish flag, and as you know, Denmark, Norway, and Iceland, they are very interrelated on their history, right? They were these Vikings. They consider themselves Vikings. And they live on these extreme temperatures. They share a lot of linguistic features. That doesn't mean that languages are exactly the same, but they do have a close relationship. These languages, for example, I remember... I used to remember some words in those languages, but now I'm probably too old to remember. Oh yes, Duer Bakker is like you're beautiful, and the Duer Smuk is also you're beautiful in Norwegian and Danish, right, respectively. But the only thing that you are, the equivalent to you are, is exactly the same, Duer. The only thing that changes is the beautiful for Bakker or Smuk, and it's interesting how that happens. Pardon my pronunciation, but yes, that's what I remember, and it was for me very interesting to see at that time. Like, why are they so similar, right? Like you are, why is it the same in that structure? But that is why we can see also the relationship among their flags. They both, Norway and Iceland, copied the design of the Danish flag, and they just inverted the colors and changed some things, and that was it. No,
that's really cool.
Just like Italy did to our flag, right? Just they took out the eagle and they made it, and I'm just kidding, but yeah. Sure. Well, we also have some other very interesting flags. The Northern Mariana Islands flag and Bermuda and Albania, sorry. So these flags are very unique. This is our trio of unique flags. And, well, the Northern Mariana Islands, as you can probably see, is this funny flag, which is the only flag in the world featuring clip art. Seriously, this thing that you can find on Word or PowerPoint when you're doing your presentations, it's seriously featuring clip art, and you can see it on the design of the flag. It's very obvious that it's using clip art, right? And well, it has a star that represents the unity of the states that make up this country. It has a late stone representing the Chamorros, which are the native people who live there. And it has this figure in a hood, right? It has this hooded person, and the position is just super interesting. It's turning his or her back to their world, and this is for me, it's an interesting flag because it's funny, right? And what's your opinion about this flag?
I don't know. I don't know why they decided to make a man or a woman, kind of. I don't know. It's just really strange, I have to say.
and the position, right? It's not even looking at to you. It's giving you back, like the back, right? It's just interesting to see that. We also have the Bermuda flag, which is the only flag in the world to feature a sinking ship. As you can see it on the picture, there's only a sinking ship, and it also has one copy of another flag that we were talking about, right?
Yeah, of course.
Great Britain. And it's just a combination of two very weird things. It just looks weird, right? And finally, we have Albania, which is this bird, double-headed eagle on the red background. And of course, this has gone through a lot of changes. As we know, Albania at some point in history was part of the URSS. And well, it used to have the hammer and everything. Now it has gone through a lot of changes, and now it's just this eagle there, which it's a very cool looking flag. But
it's kind of strange.
But still, the design looks very strange for a flag, right?
Yeah.
I would imagine seeing that not as a country's flag, but more as like a game representation flag.
Yeah, that's correct.
On the Super Bowl, I think.
Army, right? So, something like that, or team, right? A soccer team's flag or something like that. And finally, the last flags that we have for these sections are, Willie?
Yeah, the one of Switzerland. Well, this is really interesting because, well, as we can see, the flag of the Red Cross, it could be as the same as Switzerland, but there is a difference. Only it's the opposite.
Yes.
The one of the Red Cross organization. And well, why? It could be because the one that created the Red Cross organization was a Swiss, and it was Henry Dunant. We don't know if it was because I think he was really proud of his country, and just he made the country of the Red Cross organization. Just it was opposite the colors, and that's it.
I invite our audience to imagine this moment, right? Like, oh, I'm in charge of designing this new flag for an organization that's called the Red Cross. So my flag has a cross. So why don't I invert the colors? And that's it.
And the Red Cross organization, that's it.
Sold.
I say people,
pay me $1 million.
let me be proud of my country.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, so that's it for our second section on interesting flags around the world. And we'll be back with the last section.
Soy de Tabasco, tengo 21 años y estudio la licenciatura en Comercio y Estrategia Internacional en UPAEP. Practiqué baile contemporáneo y eso me formó como una persona muy apasionada y detallista. Amo la música y por eso estuve aprendiendo batería en Bellas Artes UPAEP. Mi gran inspiración es mi mamá. Es una emprendedora social y me enseñó que lo más importante es poner el corazón en lo que hago. En UPAEP lo estoy logrando porque me forman con los mismos valores que ella me inculcó. Mejorar mi entorno es uno de mis sueños. Y por eso estoy colaborando en 2 proyectos que promueven la vida sustentable. Estoy determinada que el impacto que deje en el mundo sea el inicio de la transformación que nuestro futuro necesita. Mi historia comienza aquí. Soy Karen y soy UPAEP.
Tú tienes un reflejo digital. ¿Sabes cuál es el tuyo? Ven a conocerlo. Big Data y yo.
Visítala en Museo UPAEP, de lunes a sábado, de 9 de la mañana a 5 de la tarde. 11 Poniente, 1914, Colonia Santiago. Entrada libre. Edis Interactive, Televisa y Museo UPAEP te invitan.
Okay, that was such a short break, but we're back with flags around the world, or better known as Fun with Flags, right? This last section is going to be brief, but we have a lot of interesting facts about flags around the world. And let's start with the first one. Well, as you know, we've talked about the importance of flags. So there are replicas of flags, there are official flags, and it doesn't matter which one of them, but if you want to destroy any of these, you have to incinerate them. And if an official flag is deteriorated or destroyed, you have, besides incinerating it, perform a civic ceremony for the departure of the flag.
It's such an honor to be a flag, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
That's why in many countries it's considered an offense to burn a flag just because, right? It has to have a motive. It has to be because the flag is not in a good state anymore. It probably tore, right? It's probably very old and needs to be replaced. But there should be a reason behind why you are destroying it, not just because you want to burn it.
That's correct. And in fact, now I just imagine it. Just imagine just burning a flag just because you want. I don't imagine myself just doing it because I want. It's like, no, it's the symbol. It's because you are part of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Especially a flag of your own country, right?
It's not like a paper that, okay, I don't want it, just burn it.
Yeah, but also in the United States, I think that the Scouts burn flags. I don't know the meaning, but they burn like the American flag.
Oh, they do?
They do, actually.
I see. That would be interesting to find out why they do such
There
a
must
thing.
be a
There must be a meaning. Yeah.
Probably when the cycle of life of the flag is done, or
I don't know,
yeah,
honestly.
who knows about that, right?
Sure.
So this February 24th, the Mexican flag is turning 198 years old. So in 2 more years, we're probably gonna have a big fiesta, right?
Sure.
That would be.
Yeah, we don't like it, fiesta, so.
Yeah, 21,
just
right?
imagine.
Yeah.
2021. We'll probably have a super big
years.
fiesta for the second century of our flag. And yeah, that would be very, very nice. Well, we've already talked about the Mexican flag, and we have more other facts about other flags. Would you like to share?
Yeah, so you know that when the first man put foot on the moon, there was actually a flag, a nylon American flag planted on the moon during Apollo 11 that actually cost $5.50. But it was knocked over by exhaust from the lunar module's ascent, and probably has disintegrated after years, because of the heat, the UV rays.
And the radiation.
And the radiation.
It's very funny, like, this dilemma of, did we ever go to the moon? Was it all fake? But it's just interesting. I don't know how real the footage was, the one I watched. But you can see the flag waving, which wouldn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
From a scientific point of view, but, well, who knows?
Well,
but according to this, we have no way to prove it because it would be already vanished, right?
Sure.
So that's another thing. Willie, any other thing?
Yep. For example, now, if you can see for giving up and to say, I don't want this anymore, it's like the white flag, right? It's just white and that's it. No other colors, no images. And why? Well, In history, it was easier to drop a white flag and to identify a sign of surrender by it because it was recognizable and during the heat of the war. So it was easy to say, well, I don't want this anymore. It was easy to see the
To
white
see,
flag.
right? Especially see.
It was easy to see for the other that you don't want the war anymore, and to see, okay, that's a sign of surrender, and that's it.
The first mention of this use for the white flag, because as we said in the past, it was for power and everything. But the first use as a surrendering sign is attributed to Tito Livio, which is he tells the story that a Carthaginian ship flew with white cloth and olive branches as a sign of surrender during the Second Punic War. This was between 218 and 201 BC. Yes, so that's probably a very old time, right?
Yeah.
Thousands of years from the very first use of white flag as a sign of surrendering.
Yeah. And also this one is actually a funny fact. So the first Olympic flag went missing for 77 years after the 1920 games, but in a 1920 Olympian revealed he'd had the flag in his suitcase the whole time. Just
So,
imagine that.
In 1920, an Olympian, an athlete, right? He steals this flag, and 77 years after, he says like, "Oh, you know what? I had it in my suitcase all this time." But also with the Olympic flag, there's a very nice history behind and why the colors that are there were chosen. Right? By the time it was created in the 20s, they took into consideration all the colors that all the flags around the world had, right? And they tried to find a representation in this flag that contained at least one color for every flag in the world. So that's why this main gamma of colors was chosen for the first Olympic flag. Probably now we have new flags with different colors, but back then all of the flags in the world were considered in order to have this sense of unity among the world, and that we could compete in a friendly way, and that's why at least every country in the world could say, oh, in the Olympic flag there's at least one of the colors of my flag. So that's one interesting thing about the Olympic flag.
Yep, and also just talking about the new flags and the history of this, imagine the oldest one that we have nowadays. And well, historically, we have the Denmark's flag, that is the oldest flag currently in use. It was designed in 1219, and well, it has not been changed since then.
Since the Middle Age, we have to say.
Yeah, that's correct. Since the Vikings.
2019.
Right.
So
that's a long time ago.
And we were saying that this one's stolen, right?
Yeah.
Yes, because was it no?
Oh
no!
no.
The Norway and
Norway.
Iceland stole
Stole
this.
this.
So this has been like among us for a long time. Okay, what about the Italian flag, our enemy, right?
So Napoleon designed the Italian flag to look like a flag of France, but replaced the blue color with green because it was actually his favorite color.
Just
because he wanted to. It doesn't represent anything. It was just like, I like green, so why not?
And then red.
That would be interesting, right? Like, how do you feel about your flag being designed by someone else, not from your country? That would be interesting, right? To ask someone about that. And yeah, that's true. It's exactly the same colors except for the change of blue for
green.
And
of course now we use those colors too, right?
Yeah, and well, there are people that think that the Mexican flag is the same as the Italian flag, but well, it's, just some investigation, and no, it's not. It's completely different.
The color
it has nothing to do with the Mexican flag, and the colors. Maybe when you can say, when you can see the white, green, and red. It's not the same. The colors are completely different.
Yes, there's
you put attention.
A light color, I have
a
to say.
different shade of Mexico, right?
Yeah, but there's also this flag from Mozambique that has an AK-47. Why? I honestly don't know. But that's a pretty cool design, I have to say.
So it's the only flag in the world to have an AK-47.
I like it, but not the gun.
Okay, and to finish with today's talk, we've been talking about flags, and they're of course experts in the world. That's where we got this data from. And a person who dedicates themselves to the study of flags is a vexillologist, and the science is vexillology. And yeah, that's what Sheldon Cooper claims himself to be, right? So thank you very much for being with us. Thank you to our hosts. Thank you for being here another week. Thank you to our audience. Thank you to the people in UR Radio for making this such a wonderful experience. And well, we'll be back next week with more of Culture Shock.